with 20% of your effort, you can create 80% of the value. And that pretty much goes for everything. It goes for your business, this goes for marketing, PR, your personal life, you name it. And that's actually the PR concept where I took this idea and recreated something around it, where I think you can really create the same thing. You know, you get 80% of the value with 20% of your time. So who's this for? And I'm going to ask a question. How many of you work in startups? Quite a few. And how many of you are PR professionals, marketing? You're the only one who's no, two, okay. Three. Okay, great. So actually, you know, because this concept is not for professionals who work full-time on it, but actually for people who have other stuff in mind, like you have the business to run, you have a product to develop, that sort of thing. And you have no dedicated PR person or agency because you can't afford them or you don't want to. But this is actually one of the important things, you have a basic understanding of your target audience. At least you know a little bit who you want to talk to. So just as a beginning, a little bit about me. You can find me on Twitter for Rumberg, that's my last name, Sebastian Rumberg. I started out as a journalist, print, radio, worked as a freelancer mainly, MDR, Deutschlandradio, you name it. But then after a couple of years I got bored and I thought about, hey, you know, PR looks fun, I want to do that. And so that's what I studied, and then I got into the startup scene, which is a very short version. How many of you know Six Wunderkinder? Also, okay. I was one of the guys doing the PR for them for a while, and but then I got bored with PR as well, and I started my own company. And before that, I was kind of okay at PR. You know, I think I was good actually because I got into Six Wunderkinder. And then when I started my company, we were 4 founders. We had we created a product. You know, we talked to customers, but then everything I was good at until this time, PR and marketing, I sucked now because I had no time doing it, and I was like, I hated social media because I had no idea what to do with it. Nicole actually, you know, cleared this one up, and I had so many other problems on my mind that I thought, oh fuck it, you're not going to do PR. And I think actually that's one of the things that killed us in the end. You know, it was mainly personal reasons, but coming to that point was a lot of we didn't get attention, we didn't have time to talk to people because we actually. Are there any lawyers in here? Yeah, because we followed the advice from 2 lawyers who said, yeah, you need to run this, you know, protective things, whatever. So anyway, we had to shut it down, and now I'm working for Blinkist, which is a really cool company. That's the last bit of advertising I'm going to do tonight. It's they do summaries for non-fiction book on your iPhone, so whenever you're on a break, read the bits and pieces. It's really interesting. You can download it. And we're coming to the minimum PR cycle, and just as Mr. Cleveland said, it's there's no science, there's no magic in it. It actually comes down to a couple of pieces and coming up with catchy numbers and whatever. I call it the W4 cycle because there are 4 W questions in it. And we're starting with the first one, what's my goal? And actually that's one of the biggest ones. Come up with a goal that is not PR related. You don't, being on TechCrunch is not the goal. The goal behind it is you want to reach an audience, you want them to test it for you. You can also have goals like, I want to have 2,000 paying customers. And then the next thing is you think about, okay, what's the right channel? Is PR actually the right channel? Or should I go into marketing and you know, do some Facebook ads if you are into that stuff? So anyway, just be very precise on it. And actually where your goal goes, that's all the stuff you need. You know, that's actually a trick that writers use when they write a novel. They have their one synopsis, their one tiny sentence, what their novel is about, write it on there. And you're going to do the same thing with your goal. You know, that actually takes 1 or 2 minutes after you came up with it. And then you stick it to your screen, so you always want to have that in mind. The second question is, what's my interesting thing? And we covered that one before. It's not about you. Actually, no one cares about you, which is a beautiful thing. Actually, no, it's all about the readers. What do they get out of it? You know, where's your catch? Like grabbing your example with the woman, it could be, they identify with the idea, you know, it shows that anyone can be successful, you know, when you want to put personality in the front. Or you can take your product, which might, you know, if it's a business product, who of you is into business to business? Wow, that's also very good. And the rest is business to customers, I guess. Yeah, so what do you, does your customers get out of it? So, you know, that's actually what I had in my experience when I talked to many startups and with other people, it's the hardest part for them to switch roles, you know, to step outside from them. I'm awesome, my product is really cool, why is no one listening to me? taking a step back and then thinking about, okay, if I had no idea what this is, what would I want to know about it? That's the question you want to ask. The third one, it's also very simple. Who should I talk to? It's not always journalists that you want to talk to. You want to, on the one hand side, it depends on the stage. On the second one, it's again, who do you want to talk to, who do you want to reach in the end? It can be, investors, journalists, influencers, also bloggers, maybe politicians or famous people. There's this one brand of a guy doing T-shirts where he was just sprinkling paint on them, and that was it. And he sent one to Madonna, and then she was wearing it, or her kid was wearing it, I can't remember. And then he sold millions of them. So that's also another thing. Don't just because it's called PR and press relations, think that journalists are the ones you want to talk to. Sometimes they're actually the hardest one to talk to. And the last questions, what do I want them to do? That's also you want to be very specific on this one, because you, in the best scenario, you ask them, or what you have in mind. Journalists, hey, could you do a piece about it? Or, hey, could you print a guest blog if I write you one? Or, hey, can you do a contest? We give you 10 vouchers for free with lifetime subscription, whatever you want to do. And so that's the same with everyone. It goes for journalists, goes for influencers, goes for whoever. And it only takes 20 minutes each. Let's say every Monday morning, that's what actually we do at Blinkist. We sit together, we have a bucket list with hundreds of ideas. We go through what we're doing this week, and then all it takes is 80 minutes altogether, if you have a little bit of practice, going through the 4 steps, and then you're ready to go for the week. And then let's say you're done on Monday, in the morning, because then you're the most creative, or I don't know, you're still tired. And the rest of the week you can focus on the other important stuff again. And the hardest part, of course, it's engaging people. After you did your research, after you wrote down your goal, you know who you want to talk to, what your story will be. We had this one again, it's quality over quantity. Find out who you want to talk to, what they've written about in the past, polite them. Colette Bellou did a presentation, who's running a Bellou PR, also a very large corporate thing. And she said, journalists are people too. And this is the thing that many people seem to forget. Actually, it's not really hard to talk to them. All you want to do is be a human being, be nice to them. Compliment them on a piece they've written, and after that, they might listen to you. Another thing, I got a couple of emails from. I did another presentation, and I offered them, send me your email, and I'll show. They want to write to journalists. There were hundreds of lines of text, describing everything. No one's going to read it. You want to make it 2 paragraphs maximum. The first one is, introduction, be polite, compliment them on something, always works somehow. And then you say, hey, in relation to this article, I found this could be interesting for you. And then in the second paragraph, actually starting in the first one, you wow them with something. This could be, you have this super cool product, you have a really great story to share, and then you tell them about it, and actually that's pretty much all it takes. Especially in the tech scene, I also came up with this catchy line, press relations is the new press release, which I'm really proud of. It doesn't work for everything, but in the end it's really true. Press releases, when I was working as a journalist, you get hundreds of them, and most of them are boring, and you delete them right away. That's why you need to find a new way to engage with them, and the simplest thing to do is be human, talk to them, just be nice and helpful. For example, you see that one of the journalists you want to talk to comes to Berlin, and he's really into sushi, why ever he would be into sushi. And then why not just recommend a sushi place and say, hey, this might be interesting for you. Boom, he might remember your name, and the next time you say, this is cool, or let's meet up for a coffee. And yeah, this is also a thing, don't let go. Most people send out one email and disappointed if they don't hear back from him, or if they get a simple no, which is a great step actually already, because you get a reaction. But let's say you don't hear back from them, take a couple of days and then ask them again. Send them, if you're too shy because you don't want to pick up the phone, send them an email again saying, hey, maybe this one got lost, which is your second chance to get in touch with them. Or even better, get their phone number, call them. You might catch them in a weird time and they say, yeah, I don't really have time right now. And you just say, hey, can I send it to you again? Most likely they will say yes, just so they get you off the phone. And then, yeah, actually, that's the whole thing already. It's, you know, repeat the whole cycle. The whole thing once more. What's my goal? You know, tiny thing. What's the interesting thing, which is always the hardest part to come up with. Actually, I have my best ideas when I take a walk, under the shower, and in bed. I hate actually working on a desk, and people always ask me what I'm doing as a communications guy, because they always see me on Facebook side and that sort of thing. Who should I talk to, and what do I want them to do? Which I think is a very rewarding, if you think about it, as a mini experiment. You know, this takes away a lot of this. I hear a lot of people saying, I'm afraid, you know, getting a no. And just think about it, this is just something along the way. You know, if you don't get a reaction, boom, whatever. You know, you either ask him again, you talk to another journalist, and if you do this repeatedly, you know, then you work on your story, you get better at this, which you should actually be able to talk about right away. You know, 3-sentence media loves this. And just, you know, learn along the way. And now we come to the really fun part. This was just, you know, the queer, I don't know how to call this, the power of add-ons. Let's say you have some more time to plan. Let's say you know that your product will be in version 2.0 with awesome new social features and media sharing and photo filters and whatever. You know, add to the cycle. But actually now here becomes the really cool part. Create a bucket list. That's what I mentioned already. That's what we do. Whenever we have an idea, and I ask the whole team to join in, you know, whenever they have weird ideas, like we want to do a puppet show, or we want to invite people to our office, which is PR too, and marketing actually. We throw it on the list every Monday morning, Holger and I, which is my boss. We go through the list together, and we pick the one thing that we either think will be great for now, or we have a 2 or 4 week cycle and a 3-month cycle. So we, you know, take the goals, put them in there, so we see the big picture where we want to go. And yeah, planning in advance. Of course, it's playtime, and there's so many things you can do. It's almost insane what you can do. You can do surveys. You can create parties. You can try to speak at conferences, which is kind of a lot easier than you might think. I actually got this, you know, speaking engagement because I just texted Mariana saying, "Hey, I had this idea for this, you know, PR concept," and a simple email, boom, here I am. Do you think I'm an expert? So it's actually a lot easier than you think, and from there, you know, things pick up. It was also the same with Six Wunderkind. It was the same with Blinkist. We shot for the big media. You know, we went for Spiegel. We went for later New York Times, Washington Post, Deutschlandradio, and you name them. And because we got featured on there after some time, which was basically also simple emails saying, "Hey, you might be interested in this." Then all the other media noticed, and then, you know, we turned the thing around. They came to us, and then of course we had our pitch ready and all the stuff. Yeah, this is a big thing. You gotta say no to a lot of things, especially, you know, and you know that because you don't have time. If you don't have time, it's kind of easy to get lost in all the tiny bits and pieces. Social media, I really suck at this. I can be honest. Because, you know, you have some, you might have some effect somewhere. You know, some people engage with you, and you have a follower there, you have a like button there, and then someone's visiting your website. But the thing is, it's still the same time that you invest in what you want to do. You want to get the biggest investment for your time. So say no to the small stuff and really focus on the big picture. At least that's what I would say. And now we got to the part where I connected some random device. The best PR happens offline. You know, I talked to a lot of journalists and asked them, because I was really insecure about this press release. How important is it nowadays, especially in the tech scene? And most of them said, you know what, if the product rocks or the guys rock, an email is just fine, because you know, in the end it doesn't matter if it's a PDF file. They actually hate PDF files. Never do that. Or if it's, you know, beautifully formatted. All it comes down to is a short intro saying, this is our product, and if the product is great, everything is going to be awesome. And if the product sucks, well, then you want to focus on the product first, because then PR won't help you. And the one big secret, and this is, you know, probably this is where the magic thing is, be helpful, talk and listen. Oh, that's pretty much it. That's what I get paid for, a lot of money. Yeah, talk and listen often. Of course, you know, you want to use every option, possibility that you have. And it's not about formalizing everything. You know, don't make big plans and have strategies for everything. Actually, it comes down to go to a networking event engage with the people, and what works best for me, ask questions first. Go to them and be interested in them. And after a few minutes, when it's going to be weird because they think, why are you asking all the questions? They will turn it around and say, so what are you doing? And that's when you're in, you're not selling anymore, they're actually interested because they want to hear what you are doing. Of course, journalists are people too. I mentioned that already, give before you take. I can't actually put enough emphasis on this. I think this makes it, I think the easiest it can possibly get is be helpful to them first. Let's say you have your 3 to 10 people, which is the maximum you should focus on, because otherwise you're going to get lost in the number of contacts you have to manage. Just follow them on Twitter, which is another stream in itself you have to manage. But every now and then just look into it. If you can answer something, boom, do it, and get your name a little bit out there without thinking, what's the short-term effect, what's the short-term bonus, how can I get the most out of it? There's a long-term success too, and if you don't have, something in the short term, so be it. I mentioned that one already as well. Create a bucket list, that's what we do. Yeah, another thing which I'm really bad at, I'm a perfectionist, and I really have to remind myself all the time, 20% or 80% of the result is good enough to start with. There are 2 approaches. The one thing is make everything perfect. Make a revision of your press release, make a revision of your pitch, make everything perfect, give it to 10 people to look over it, change tiny words. Or you can create a first version in a day, and then you start pitching to people. Don't go to the high-profile journalists, maybe start with smaller ones, or other influencers you want to talk to, and then just get better through their reactions and the questions they ask. This will teach you a lot more than you discuss it internally with your CEO or designer. And limit yourself. That's another big thing. Creativity works best with boundaries. Another anecdote, I was working on the whole concept for a month probably. Every once in a while I had a huge document with thousands of ideas, and I went to Nicole with this, and we sat together, and she was probably freaking out, I don't know. And then the whole presentation actually got together when I was on a walk from home to work yesterday. So creativity needs boundaries. That's the same thing for everyone. That's why you want to work with these tiny sheets. Otherwise you're going to get lost. You say, well, we can do this, we can do this. No, start with the business goal first. I'll repeat myself. And then I'm actually, I hate this copycat movement, which they call it. This Sambo brothers, I hate them. Is anyone working for Rocket Internet? Okay. But what? Oh, really? Don't tell them I don't care. It's they have money, they probably sue me, I don't know. Look what your competition does. Don't reinvent the wheel. You hear the same phrase over and over again, but really put emphasis on it. Take the structure of their, website. If they are good, they have done some A/B testing, or take bits and things of their copy and rearrange it and rewrite it a little so they won't sue you. But it saves you a lot of work, and most of the text won't be written at all at any time. So you want to have the basic information ready, and just spend as little time as possible on writing this stuff. Even if you want to make it beautiful, which is a good thing. I love writing, I love words. But yeah, it's going to save you a lot of time, and prepare mentally to fail, which is going to happen a lot. You're going to be ignored. People say no to you. People. Probably, there might even be the case when you call the journalist for the 3rd time, he's going to think, who is this idiot on the other side, re-approaching me all the time. If it helps you in the end, if 1 or 2 people, think you're stupid what you do, you're going to wow them the next time once you're successful with other journalists, then you're going to hate themselves. And I heard different people having different approaches. I like to make networking fun. I hate networking, but I love to listen to people, so that's what I do. I just go to an event with no goal whatsoever. I'm not like, I'm going to sell Blinkist to 50 people in this room today. It was actually more like it's fun meeting you guys. And but what you want to do, if you have, if you really want to move forward, pick 1 or 2 people that come to the event, and make them your little experiment. Approach them. This can be scary if you pick the most famous ones, but always go for them. And have fun with the others. Tools and resources, I always found this to be the most helpful when others gave talks, and I want to know, okay, so what are they working with? We're using Trello.com for our bucket list and little management. and that's what it looks like. You can actually read it. So that's my personal one. I have an 80 list, which I redesigned it because Trello is actually really ugly. The list is dozens and dozens of different ideas. I have the most important ones here. This is stuff I'm waiting for, and then I move everyone to done. Once it's done, so I can keep track of what I've done. And right now they're just filtered. And in the back is the one I'm using with Holger. We have ideas, then we have current tasks, our weekly, 4 weekly goals, and then 3-month goal. And yeah, I got a recommendation from Özlem, who is working for also PR firm. And I mean, she said Simple Online is actually a really good tool. And what I found out is that you can get 40 days for free. And what it looks like is this, but you're going to get lost in this one, I promise you. So you can look for everything. You can look for journalists. It's a huge contact base. You sign up for the account, then you say, I want to have all weekly newspapers. I want to have more monthly newspapers. I want to have all the editors that are focused on cars or, I don't know, travel, insurance, whatever you need, and tech. And yeah, then you get a huge list. And after 40 days, I don't know how much they charge you, a couple of €1,000 probably. And that's what you end up with. This is actually an old one I was using with from another thing. And you see from the file size, these are thousands. What was it called? I can't remember. But a thing with 60,000 journalists for Germany alone. And once I didn't work as a spokesman for this media agency anymore, I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna download some of them. And I'm still sitting on these lists and I don't use them, because in the end, there's 2 approaches, quantity versus quality, and I always go for the quality one, which makes it a lot easier. But of course, there's success as well. When you send out to 7,000 people, 100, 200 maybe is printed, which is kind of cool. But in the end, this takes a lot of time. And another thing, I'm a big fan of the, not getting lost in all the tasks you have to do. Eisenhower.me is based on the Eisenhower matrix. Do you guys know what it is? Yeah? No? In the end, it's based on, can you see it here? Yeah, you have an, how do you call it? A matrix in the end with 2 scales. One is for importance and the other one is for urgency. So, and then from there on you filter all your tasks. Most of the stuff, which is small stuff, ends up in the don't do it because it's neither important nor urgent. What you really want to focus on first is everything that's urgent and important. And important doesn't mean that it's, because someone asks you to do it for him, except if it's your boss, then you probably want to do it. But everything that actually moves your business forward significantly, which is not a Facebook like, but really, going after Spiegel Online or getting Angela Merkel to wear your shirt. It's going to be a tough one. And so you want to focus on this one first because some tasks will be urgent. And the second one you focus on is the long-term stuff, which is kind of novel to how most people work, at least in my experience. Because here will be the stuff, that's also going to be 3 months down the road, but you want to push it forward. Maybe you can make it happen a lot earlier. And yeah, basically you're going to delegate the stuff that's neither important but urgent, and yeah, ignore the rest. A book that I really like that I read in the past is The $100 Startup. It pretty much focuses on people that started companies, small companies, not the startup kind of guy with millions of investment, but people that started companies to support themselves and basically travel a lot. And what they have in this one is a lot of case studies. It's written by Chris Guillebeau. Do I pronounce the name right? I never know. Actually, so probably you can read it, but I'm going to send it around anyway. And you have a lot of case studies there, how people manage to build it basically through marketing. But in the end, especially in the online world, pretty much things, interfere with each other. I don't know. And so that's what I want to do on a startup. I talked about the Baloo presentation because I didn't want to get into the details. That's a really cool one for if you want to know how to write a press release, all the stuff that you can do with PR. It's, yeah, just figure it out. It's a slideshare, a presentation sheet a couple of days ago. And there's another article from Citron, he's also a PR guy. He wrote a little article on the Next Web about how to make tech journalists like you more, which is basically the same things, just browse through it, 175 words or less for an email. Don't use these buzzwords, don't use this generic language that everyone hates. And this one is actually a really cool one. Timothy Ferriss, the 4-Hour Workweek, he has a blog. where he writes all this awesome stuff about how people do crazy things, really crazy things. And there's this one article about a guy, how they raised on Kickstarter $100,000 in 10 days. And basically what you see in there is the same technology supplied. Steal from your competition, you know, especially what they stole from is what journalists they approach and what blogs they were talking to. Then they picked the 10 with the, you know, most influence, or maybe 3 to 5, and then they asked them, you know, for, I don't know, getting featured, writing guest articles. Just really, it's a really cool thing, and you're going to be really stoked after that, and you say like, I'm going to do the same, which is the thing that I want to create here. The site doesn't exist yet, but I have the domain, which I'm really proud of, because it kind of, you know, it's the same as the presentation I just gave. So in the future, hopefully within the next couple of days, I'm going to have the presentation up there, and after that, collect everything that evolves around this concept, what I found on the internet, you know, maybe what colors I like, and yeah. Last thing, if you have any more questions after tonight, text me on Twitter. I try to keep up with it, and then there's an idea. We are sitting in Beta House, and I thought, you know, when I started with this, I always liked what was talked about in the presentation, but after a week, when I got to do it myself, I freaked out because it didn't work the way I wanted it to. So I want to set up an office hour where you can, you know, within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we make an appointment for half an hour sitting together. Once you come up with questions that's really bothering you, maybe I can help. And yeah, but we still have to figure that one out, how we're going to do it.
Yes, I mean, maybe the best way is, of course, through your Twitter account, of course, but we actually have an appointment system on our website. So I'm going to follow up on this, you know, provide you information about it. So you can actually, through our website, set an appointment with some of our, you know, presenters or experts, including yourself. Cool. But I'm going to follow up on that, you know, give you all details. It's easier.
And that was the last slide, actually.
Okay.
So that's it.
Thank you very much.